Hey everybody, welcome back, and it's my next free tutorial Friday, and I did a little insight into a little, guide through the book last week, and I thought I would share with you a video from the book this week, just to give you the full preview. So I'm going to show the video associated with page 18 and 19 about practicing freehand ellipses. So we'll talk a little bit about anatomy, and so I'll just roll the educational video. There are 23 of the videos like the one I'm about to show within the book that are different than what's on the YouTube channel. There's 29, I think, total educational videos. So this one covers page 18 and 19, and there are many, many more like it in the book, but I want to give you the full experience. So let's roll the video from this page with a play button. Enjoy. So you can see from the picture at the top of page 18, it's important to be able to draw ellipses, not just to do car wheels and stereo knobs and eyeballs and things like that, but also to do things in the environment and in architecture. So let's start, and I'll do a little quick review of this page 18, page 19. So first thing to do, just like when you were doing the straight lines, is to train your arm to draw nice ellipses. And what you want to do is just practice drawing a bunch of these, fill up a page, draw them different degrees, right? The degree is how thin or how wide, right? How narrow or how wide the ellipse is. And we're just going to talk a little bit about anatomy now. We're not going to place them yet in perspective. So all you want to do is try to draw nice ellipses. Look where, like, this disc, that didn't connect, so try to focus on that. And don't draw like this, super hairy, whole bunch of them, because somewhere in there is the perfect ellipse. But unfortunately we can't see it because it's covered by all these bad ones. So it's a great idea to try and just train your arm to draw one nice ellipse. And one clean ellipse, this drawn nicely, right? Even if it's a little bit lumpy, but the fact that the line is nice and clean, your brain will always think that this is a better ellipse than this one. This one just shows everybody, hey, look here, I was having trouble drawing that ellipse. So what you want to try and do is just fill up a page. Sorry, I'm keep smearing this thing. I should grab a different pen for this exact demo. It doesn't really matter what you draw with, pencil, ballpoint. Now when you draw these, if you'll notice, right, the minor axis, for me, almost always points in the direction of my arm. So if my forearm's here, the minor axis when I draw, okay, tends to point sort of in the direction of my pen, but also in the direction of my arm. So I know if I need to align my ellipse on a minor axis, I can just move my arm. So if I want to put an ellipse with the minor axis going this way, I just move my pad of paper, right? And if I draw like this, I'm drawing the same ellipses as these, but now the minor axis is pointing out, right, this direction in alignment with my arm. So again, spinning the pad to locate new, make new alignments. So let's review a little bit of what's talked about on those pages. So we already started with that. You fill up a page of nice ellipses, right? Try not to do too many lines over the top. Try to get no flat spots. Now an ellipse has basically some anatomy we need to be aware of. If you divide an ellipse across the narrow dimension with a line that makes these two sides symmetrical so that you could fold the piece of paper on that minor axis. In fact, let's just try that here. If I fold this piece of paper on the minor axis, okay, almost got it right there. Okay, so if I fold that, okay, those two halves will line up on top of each other, and you can actually see that they do. Okay, so we can actually see through this paper. Let's do one that's incorrect. Let me try to treat this as my minor axis right here. Okay, so there's a nicely drawn ellipse, but this minor axis is not right, the true minor axis. The true minor axis of this ellipse is here. So if I fold it along this line, right, which has already had my fold, you'll notice that the two sides do not line up on top of each other, whereas on this one, they did. So this minor axis is correct, and this one is not. But this one would be the right one. Okay, because I realigned it. We'd have to fold the piece of paper. Let's try that. Let's realign that. Put it on my minor axis. There we go. So I'm folding it on there, and you can see pretty close. It's a little bit long and pointy on that end, but the sides here look very nice and aligned. Okay, so that would be the proper minor axis for this ellipse. So after you have a page of these, like so, what you want to do is go back and try to identify the minor axis. So just take these ellipses. You have to get your head sort of right over it, and I don't want to block the camera here. So let's try and just estimate, probably right about there for the minor axis. Here, right, let's find one that's a little bit rotated. There. And so what you can do to check those is do what I did here and just fold the piece of paper and see if they line up on each other. If they don't, it's incorrect. So it's a really simple way for you to go back and check your own work. Okay, now there's one other axis, which is the major axis. Now the major axis divides each half of an ellipse. Okay, it makes each half equal along the widest dimension of the ellipse. But we never really use it for sketching, so you can pretty much forget about it. So minor axis, that's the last you need to think about. Minor axis, though, is all important. Major axis, not so much. Okay, and you'll see why in the coming pages. So one last thing to practice is what you see at the bottom of page 19. You can try to draw almost like you were drawing a cylinder, just to give yourself more practice. This is not an easy thing to do. Let's see. Draw two straight lines like this, and then divide them in the middle like that, and draw another straight line. And then see if you can line up ellipses that are on, treat this as your minor axis. Okay. And draw an ellipse on the minor axis that touches tangent to each one of those lines. Like I said, this is not easy. So probably not warmed up enough for this today, but let's give it a shot. Okay, draw them in different degrees. We're not placing them yet really in perspective. We're just trying to practice drawing ellipses on a minor axis, right, with some constraints. Because it's these kinds of constraints, these mechanical constraints of tangency and a minor axis alignment, that we need to master before we can start to place the ellipses in perspective. Another good one is just start with a line, kind of like I did there, but I won't have the constraints of tangency to worry about. Just align it with however it likes to line up naturally with your arm to help you get a little mechanical advantage. And then just try to draw ellipses of varying widths, right, which is called the degree. So how narrow or how wide an ellipse is, right, and see if you can place them on that minor axis. So those are the things to master before moving on, and go for it. Get comfortable with that. You're probably going to burn through some pages, so maybe work on some really cheap paper, copy paper, or whatever you've got around. Drawing medium doesn't matter. Like this Copic multi-liner pen is very unforgiving because it's straight black, so if you're using a Sharpie or something, that unforgiving nature of the medium will force you to have better craftsmanship. But pencil, pen, doesn't really make a difference, but what matters is you start to build a little muscle memory, and most importantly of all, you start to recognize the minor axis and be able to locate and draw ellipses on the minor axis. Okay? That's job one for this part of the starting part of the book. Got to have that mastered before we can put them into perspective.